Amen, church. So good to worship with you on this Sunday morning, a week after Easter. So this weekend at the Grove has been one of the most exciting weekends ever, and maybe you caught wind of this on social media. But on Friday, after 21 months of praying and so many of you giving sacrificially, on Friday, we closed escrow and received the keys to our 6 acres and 5 homes next door that are new Justice College dorms. So how about that, church? Here's our team here celebrating on Friday, and it's a big day. So I want to say a huge thank you to all of you that gave so generously over the last almost 2 years. It's taken a miracle. You've been part of a miracle. We didn't think this was going to happen in so many ways. I want to thank 2 individuals specifically from the Grove who've helped make this happen. Our realtor who volunteered so much of his time, and our legal counsel, Sean St. Clair and Bill Honsaker. Can you stand just a second so we can say thank you, church? Everybody, thank you so much, Bill. I don't see Sean right now, or I'd say stand. Thank you so much, Bill. And by the way, so if you want to see our homes and buildings, just leave church this way, go out our boardwalk. You'll head south. You can take a look, wander around. Some of them are open, I think. I don't know. And just head that way. You'll end up on Queen Creek Road. You'll find your way from there, all right? You'll know where you are. And then on April 22nd, 23rd, we're going to have our first remodel days on the 3 houses we just got the keys to, or there's 5 altogether. We're going to start on 3 more. So you've watched HGTV. I know that you've always wanted to be part of Demo Day. This is your chance to shine. So we have 22 groups of families and friends that have adopted 22 of the dorm rooms. So we want them and you and everybody out helping to get started on that. That's Friday and Saturday. Mark your calendars, April 23, 24. All right, well, Grove, you're in for a treat this morning. I have a really good close friend here, Brad Lomenick. And maybe you've heard Brad before. If you haven't, let me tell you who Brad is. Brad lives and sleeps leadership and leadership ideas. Brad was one of the founders and for years led Catalyst Conference. Catalyst Conference, in my opinion, is the leading Christian conference in the nation, if not in the world, especially to young Christian leaders. Brad, over his time in ministry, in my opinion, has done more to raise up young Christian leaders than any other person in my lifetime. This church, so much of who this church is, our identity, our passions, were formed by our staff going to Catalyst every year, Catalyst West. He has 9,000 that met in Atlanta before COVID, in a hockey arena, and then thousands more in Texas and in California. We would go and our staff would come back energized with ideas and passions all from Catalyst. Brad was behind all of that. And then as I've gotten to know Brad, I've had the chance to travel with him to places like Haiti to see the organizations he partners with, to see what they do, like Convoy of Hope and Alpha. And today, Brad leads Blink and also in leadership, raising up young leaders. He's also a writer. He's written Catalyst Leader, if you don't have a copy, and it's in our bookstore. He's also written H3 Leadership, which is Hungry, Humble, Hustle. He has a podcast. You need to subscribe to that, H3 Leadership. So, Brad, it's really good to have you back at the Grove. Can you, everyone here, give Brad a warm, loud Grove welcome? We love having you here. This is your home, Brad. Every time you're not in Atlanta, this is your home.
I love being home. I'm like the crazy uncle, right? Is that my assignment? And by the way, this is the Sunday known in church world as the Hangover Sunday. Post-Easter. So a lot of you were here at Easter. So it's always like, who can we bring in? Let's bring in the reliever. Let's get them from the bullpen. So I'm honored to be here. Palmer, thank you for letting me let me be here and share some things on leadership. I am a leadership guy. So if you cut me open, I think I bleed 2 things. I bleed leadership and I bleed Jesus. And I want to actually do a little bit of a leadership class this morning. Is that okay? I mean, we're gonna unpack the scriptures a little bit, but I want to help you as a leader get better. And some of you are leaning in right now. Some of you are like, oh, Brad, I'm not a leader. Yeah, you are, because leadership is influence. So if you're influencing somebody, which we all are, then therefore you're a leader. And the big question I get a lot, especially from younger leaders today, is this question: what am I supposed to do with my life? I mean, I'm a Christian and I understand there's something bigger out there, but what am I supposed to do with my life? In fact, I think it's the number one question that most people wrestle with. I get asked all the time, how do I know I'm going in the right direction? I mean, I got this major in college that I haven't used in 15 years, right? I spent thousands of dollars to go study this thing that now never shows up. What am I supposed to do with my life? And this is not only paramount for you, because some of you are already thinking, I know the answer, but it's paramount for your kids. It's paramount for your grandkids. Those of you who are grandparents, this is the thing that many of your grandkids that are 14, 16, 18, 22, 28, 34, they're wrestling with this question: what am I supposed to do? How do I know at the end of the race that actually it was worth it? So I want to give you a framework that hopefully will be helpful. And, I don't know if you're like me, but the thing that I love to try to do as a leader is I want to try to navigate these big questions with something that feels practical. And Palmer mentioned this. I wrote this book called H3 Leadership, Humble, Hungry, Hustle. Part of the fabric of a leader that is paramount, if you've been following Jesus for a long time or even for a short time, you know that humility is the foundation. But this is true. Humility begins with self-discovery and self-awareness. So if you want to be a leader, which you do, and if you want to be humble, which hopefully you are, you have to unpack yourself. You have to actually lead yourself well. And part of leading yourself well is getting to know the way you're wired. Self-discovery, self-awareness. There's things that God has put into each of you, that He's actually designed in each of you that are specific to you. And the reality of the story that we're in is that God is the center of the story, right? Amen? I mean, we know this is right. It's not about us. It's about God. There's a bigger story that we're part of that God's the center of. However, yes, He actually cares about our part in the story. So you're not just some random design. You're not just some piece of wood that hasn't been crafted in such a way that needs to be released into the world. And here's the verse that gives evidence to this. If you've been around church a while, you know Ephesians 2, 9 and 10. For by grace you've been saved through faith, that not of yourselves, it's the gift of God, not as a result of works, that no one should boast. And then this statement: for you are His workmanship. You're actually handiwork. You're a masterpiece. Really? Yeah. God's the center of the story, but when you start following Jesus, you become His handiwork for good works, which God prepared beforehand so that we could walk in them. So if I'm His handiwork, if I'm His craftsmanship, if I'm His masterpiece, then I better get to work and make sure that I understand the way I've been wired to try to answer the question, what am I supposed to do with my life? And I want to give you a framework. There's 3 parts of this framework. Are you with me so far? Just say, I'm in, or amen, or preach it, white boy, or whatever you want to say to me. I'm going to give you 3 buckets of the framework that will help you wrestle this question. We're not going to solve it today, but hopefully this will give you something to think about around what am I supposed to do with my life. Again, whether you're 14 or 24 or 84, this is still the thing that we need to be navigating over the course of our life. And here's the first bucket. Here's the first part of the framework. Identity. Identity is the first of 3 parts of the framework. It answers the question who you are. It's your drive. It's the motivator. It's unchanging for the most part. So the easy answer to identity would be that you're You're a son or daughter. You were born by parents. That one's easy. Yes, check. Some of you are fathers and mothers. Some of you are siblings. You have brothers or sisters. These are identity components. There's deeper elements of identity. You may be a follower of Jesus. That's an identity piece. That's unchanging from now on. Some of you you're new to faith. Some of you are still like questioning, what is this Jesus story? That's part of your identity. These are all elements of answering the question who you are. And here's the key on this is that we've got to figure out foundational pieces, identity. The who has to be in place before we get to the do. And so many times in life, we're asking the what question before we ever wrestle down to the ground the who question. So we've got to be clear on identity, on foundation, who we are. It's unchanging. I would say this, you're an image bearer. You're an image bearer of God. You're actually an image bearer, an image restorer. So at the dinner party on Wednesday night this week, when you're with a bunch of people you've never met and they come up to you and go, what's your name? Oh, I'm Ted. How's it going, Ted? Great. Well, tell me about yourself. I'm an image bearer. They're going to look at you like the dog that doesn't understand the command, sort of like, really? Okay, I didn't want to go that deep that fast. But this is foundational. And following Jesus is our primary identity. I think we can all agree on that. We're a son or daughter of the King of Kings. This is true. This is true about you. So even if you don't get anything else right on the test this morning, you can get this one right. This is foundational. Following Jesus is identity. It's who you are. It's unchanging. The things that will always be true about you. That's identity. It's the easy part of the equation, or relatively easy. The next piece of the framework is a little bit harder to navigate, and it's this question of calling. The question of calling. And some of you, again, if you've been around like Christians, you hear people throw around calling, and I did growing up. Like I always heard my pastor growing up, and he would talk about, well, I was called here, and we're all called, and I was always confused. What is calling? Does calling mean I have to like be in full-time ministry and go work at a church? Do I have to be like a missionary? What if I'm in the marketplace? A lot of you guys are in the marketplace, men and women, right? Are you called? Let's unpack it. Because calling is important. And if you want to say it a different way, it's purpose. It's a purpose statement on your life. It answers the question why you're here. It gives you direction. Imagine that you're in a river, right? There's banks on the river. And your calling gives you river banks to float in through life. It gives you a sense of direction. It can change, right? Some of you are students in high school. Where are my high school students? Yeah. Do you want to be called to high school studentness for your entire life? Definitely not, right? That's a seasonal calling. Some of you, when you're parents of young kids, that's a seasonal calling. Some of you, when you're grandparents, that's a seasonal calling. So calling can change. And there's something else about calling. There's both a spiritual calling and a vocational calling. And sometimes we don't know this, and this is something I've discovered. There's a spiritual calling on your life, and there's a vocational calling. What do you mean, Brad, like spiritual and vocational? Because when I ask the question to people, hey, tell me about yourself, who you are, they get that right, and I say, well, why are you here? And they will say, to know God and to make him known. Anybody ever heard that phrase? Some of you who've been around church a long time, you're like, to know God and to make him known. That's my calling? That's awesome. I love that. Yes. But there's a comma. And then there's another piece of your calling that's more vocational. It's more wrapped around the way God's wired you. So when somebody says my calling is to actually like tell people about God, to tell them to be an evangelist for Jesus. Yes, that's true for me. It's true for you too. Comma, and. Because here's what's true about calling. Let me give you this definition. Some of you, this is going to be really helpful. Here's what I think the definition of calling is. Personal invitation. It's personal. It's an invite for me to work on his agenda using what? Talents and what? Passions that each of you have been given personally, intrinsically, wired into you that are eternally significant. Okay. So it's personal, it's an invitation to work on his agenda using things that have been wired in me and passions I've been given in ways that are eternally significant. So breadcrumbs of calling. Some of you loved math. Curse you. You were the kid in high school we all wanted to beat up. But some of you nerded out on calculus 3. And I walked in and it felt like somebody was speaking a foreign language. Anybody else with me? But then I went to history class and it was like, yeah, history. The easy route. And then some of you went to science and you got all of Newton's stuff. And then you went to PE and you were crushing it in dodgeball, right? Those are all like breadcrumbs of calling. Now, it's not the statement on your life, but what we have to look for is both the things that God's wired in you and the things that wake you up in the morning, that you cry about, the things that stir something deep in you. Anybody watch American Idol? It's a great case study for both correct and incorrect calling statements, right, on your life. And I loved it when Simon was on, because Simon would just tell somebody, you're awful. Get out of here. But the 20-year-old who's showed up and they say, why do you think you're the American Idol? Well, my parents and my friends, they just told me for my entire life that the expression of song is going to change the world through me. That's great until I hear your first note. Right? That's a lot of passion, but very little talent. I am a son of a high school football coach. That's identity for me. My dad coached football in high school in Oklahoma. When I was in middle school, when somebody said, Brad, what's the direction? Well, I'm going to be a professional athlete, duh. And then I got to high school, some of you are with me, slow, short, the list goes on. I had a lot of passion. I had a deep sense of, this is for me, but very little talent, very little gifting. So what we got to do, leaders, is we've got to find the place where talent and passion come together. That's where we'll start to discover this purpose for our life, this calling statement, where talent and passion intersect, undergirded by God's story. Where talent and passion intersect, undergirded by God's story on your life. So that's calling. That's the why. Let me get to the third piece, and then we'll unpack it a little bit more. So identity's who, right? We're trying to answer the question, what am I supposed to do with my life? Identity's who. Calling is why I'm here. The third piece of the framework is assignment. Assignment. And assignment answers the question, well, what do I do? You could say that assignment is your job. You're going to show up tomorrow, many of you, to some office or to some location or some bedroom in your house or, the spare closet or the Zoom room, wherever you're hanging out these days. And you're going to go to work on the what. Sometimes the what is not necessarily what I get paid for, but it's the thing that I just love, right? I mean, some of you garden, and if you could do gardening for the rest of your life, it would be the assignment that you would love to express. Great. Assignments are both hobbies as well as many times the things we get paid to do. They're the destination. Assignments change, though. In fact, here's some interesting data for you. My grandfather had one job or one career arc in one organization for 45 years. He hated it. He was like, get me to the weekend, get me to retirement, get me to vacation as quick as possible. he wasn't really thinking about this framework. I'm going to have probably 7 or 8 different seasons of assignments, 7 different jobs, 7 different seasons of career. Those of you who are 25 in the room, you're going to have 18 to 20 different seasons of assignment, different jobs, different places you actually show up and get a paycheck. Now, some of us who are older, we look at that and go, they're just disloyal. They just jump around. This next gen, these Gen Z people, they just go from job to job. It gets hard and they exit. Maybe, but maybe this is just a new reality of that the next generation is actually going to really need to figure this out. Because if you don't understand how your assignments connect back to your calling, you're going to go from assignment to assignment with just a sense of schizophrenia. With, well, whoever pays me the most, I'll just show up there. Compared to, now it makes sense to me. Now these assignments actually, I see the connection point. My story, I was a history major in college. Actually, I showed up at school. Some of you can relate to this. I showed up at school my freshman year and I was pre-med. You know why? Because all the people who were cool in town told me I should be pre-med. And I got to chemistry for majors the second semester of my freshman year, and it crushed me like a bug. And I thought, I'm out on the pre-med thing. Forget that. Let's go to history. It's easy. So I was a history major, was going to go to law school, going to be in politics. And then I found this way to this guest ranch in Colorado where I rode horses. I played cowboy for like 5 years, post-college. Okay, how does that assignment connect? Interesting. You were a cowboy, Brad. And then I got connected to John Maxwell, this leadership author, and then I started doing conferences, and then I got into writing books. It sounds like you're schizophrenic. It sounds like you're all over the place. I was a lifeguard in high school. I was a rapper in high school. You weren't supposed to laugh at that. That was supposed to be funny. You were supposed to say, well, obviously you're a rapper. I mean, duh. There's all these things that I've jumped into. There's all these assignments that I've had. And without any connection back to a calling statement, it would feel like, really? Man, you got to figure out what you're supposed to do with your life. But here's the connection point, is my calling statement is to influence influencers. It's actually, my purpose is to inspire, gather, equip, release kingdom change agents. I'm getting to do that right now. I'm getting to do that when I write a book. I'm getting to do that when I put on a conference. I'm getting to do that when I host a podcast. I'm getting to do that even back in the day when I was riding horses in the middle of the mountains of Colorado. You see, my point is when I can start to look back and see the connections that all these assignments have had to this sense of the why, man, it gives me such a sense of clarity, leaders, that this is all on point, right? So sometimes what happens is the sum of our collective seasons of assignments, our collective seasons of jobs, of vocations, they add up to and equate to our greater calling. So that's the way these frameworks work together. Identity is who you are. Calling is the why on your life. Assignment is what you do. And if we could just put the framework up, because this, you might even want to take a picture of this. Snapshot it. I think this is really helpful. Again, some of you got it figured out. You're like, Brad, I got you. I'm good. I know it. I'm clear. But some of us, we walk in and we go, I don't know. I mean, I've had like 4 jobs. I'm not really sure what my why statement is. I don't really know how it connects to God's story. I mean, I think I'm using some of my strengths. I mean, my current assignment, you're going to show up tomorrow somewhere, most of you. You love what you do. Some of you look at it and go, I despise everything about it. This season of assignment, I would kick to the curb as quickly as possible if somebody would give me another opportunity. That's okay. But starting to get the framework right, this is what's crucial. And again, why? Because we're his workmanship. He's working on us. We are a masterpiece. We're being crafted. I'm gonna pick on you. You're Bill, right? Bill, will you come up here for a second? You don't even know I'm doing this, but because Palmer already called you out, it was like, well, that's easy. I'm gonna pick on Bill.
Thanks, Palmer.
So, Bill.
Yes.
Tell us your greatest sin recently.
How long do we have?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, here's what I want you to do. Give me some identity statements for you. Give me some who you are.
I'm a Christ follower.
Yeah.
I am a husband.
Yeah.
A father. A grandfather. I believe I'm a leader in my work.
Okay.
A provider.
Good. You sound like you rehearsed this, man.
No,
Okay.
I hate being put in positions like this, just so you know.
That's why I did this for you, because we just want to make you uncomfortable. Calling. Give me a why you're here statement. Give me some purpose that connects the dots. And no wrong answer. Again, because I want you to be evident of the fact that we're all working this out. And I'm putting you on the spot, I know.
You are.
Yeah.
A little like Josh in the song he wrote, I want to do this right, and at the end of the day, I want to be able to look back and say, well done.
Okay. So that starts to, I see a breadcrumb that says you want to leave a legacy. You want to finish the race well. Those are purpose statements, maybe. You want to look back and see that you've well done, good and faithful servant.
Yes.
Okay. What about just some why around your vocational elements of who you are? By the way, what is your current assignment?
Oh boy.
What do you do?
I'm in commercial real estate.
Okay, commercial real estate.
Yes.
And do you run something?
I am in a leadership role in my company, but I basically represent corporate America, landowners, developers in the industrial sector primarily.
Okay.
So these big warehouse buildings you see popping up and so forth, and across the street.
Do you have your own organization?
No. I work for a global organization.
A global? Ooh.
Yes.
Yee. That sounds cool.
It's big. We are the second largest full-service commercial real estate firm in the world.
Okay.
So
now here's my point on
big
this,
company.
Bill.
Yes.
You're good. You're a good guinea pig. What you did not say is that your calling. What is the company you work for?
It's called JLL.
JLL.
Jones Lang LaSalle.
You didn't say that your calling was to work for JLL.
No.
You said your current assignment is working for JLL, right?
Yes.
So what happens? You're never going to leave JLL, but what happens if you leave JLL? You didn't lose your calling.
No.
You're just changing assignments. You're moving from a different chapter of the book to the next chapter of the book.
Correct.
Right? So we got to work on that why statement a little bit, which connects the dots. It could be that you're great at bringing people together. It could be that you're a collaborator, that you're a unifier, that you bring clarity to uncertainty, that you're really good with taking something that you're bringing two organizations together. See what I mean? All those are breadcrumbs for you of evidence, and it's both spiritual and it's vocational. Thank you, Bill. That was really good. I totally put you on the spot. Let's give Bill a hand. But what happens, leaders, is this. Many times when we ask the question, well, tell me who you are, and tell me why you're here, and tell me what you do, we get the same answer. Those answers are different. So what we can't have happen is if I would have said to Bill, well, who are you? And he would have said, well, I work for JLL. And then I said, well, why are you here on this earth, Bill? Well, I work for JLL. And then, well, what do you do, Bill? Well, I work for JLL, right? I mean, let's start there, but because if our assignment and our identity get incorrectly connected, then all of a sudden we just become really frustrated when our assignment changes. So we've got to make sure that we navigate these correctly. And I want to wrap up with this. I'm going to give you a really hopefully something that's helpful, it's practical. How do I discover my calling? How do I understand both calling and assignment? I'm going to give you 6 things really fast. How do I understand? How do I discover it? How do I make sense of it? Both calling and assignment. The first one is this: look back at your childhood. Many times we'll see breadcrumbs for calling, for purpose, even for the job, based on what we loved as a kid. Because when you're a kid, there's no pressure. When you're a kid, you just show up and do the stuff that you're naturally wired to do. What are the things that you naturally were drawn to as a child? What are the things that you just loved being part of? What are the things that you just geeked out on in school? That's the first one. The second one is this: gather info. If you want to discover, again, calling and assignment for yourself or for those around you, you got to go look for the info that's helpful. Personality test. What are the things that drain you? When you think back on college, what were the projects that you just loved? What were the projects that you thought, never again? What are the assignments the last few years in your job that gave you just incredible amounts of energy and life? Those are all areas of info. They're data. They're helpful input. Number 3, start with who. You need to figure out your who circle. The people closest to you can many times give you evidence of your calling, and you go, wow, I never realized that's me. Because they see it in you many times when you don't see it yourself. You got to figure out your who circle. The people closest to you, again, if you start asking them, hey, give me feedback. Help me understand the way I'm wired. What are the things I love to do? What are the things I'm good at? What are the things that motivate me? They'll help you get some more evidence. Number 4 is this: say yes. Especially those of you who are younger. If you're navigating, trying to figure out this calling and assignment thing, just say yes. Do you want to go on the mission field? Yep. You want to go intern in New York City? Uh-huh. You want to move overseas to London and spend a year? Let's go. You want to go around the world? Absolutely. My point is that the way you figure out calling many times is by gathering lots of yeses that will get you to your best yes. But so many times we put pressure on that 18-year-old to go, well, you better figure it out. You got one shot, and if you get it wrong, sorry. No. Just say yes. Keep saying yes. You can't steer a parked car, right? Action. Moving forward will help you. Number 5, prayer and discernment. God actually says, if we pray for wisdom, if we pray for discernment, if we seek His will for our lives, He will actually get really specific with you. Prayer and discernment. Look for it, find it, pray about it. God, give me evidence. And then number 6, seek the scriptures. Seek the scriptures. What are the stories in the Word that stir up something in you? And by the way, take a picture of that. Screenshot it. Give this to your grandkids. Give this to your friends. Because this is going to help us, again, what am I supposed to do with my life? The good news, and I'll end with this. Faithfulness is our scorecard of success. So whether you're walking in this morning going, I'm on point, or you're saying, Brad, if I could do anything else right now, I would just change in a heartbeat. This is good news. Faithfulness is our scorecard. It's our eternal scorecard of success. Whatever you do, do your work heartily as for the Lord and not for people. You're not just clocking in. You're not showing up tomorrow randomly. You're not just a block of wood. You're a masterpiece. You're not just hitting the time card. You're on point. You're on purpose. Identity, calling, assignment. Identity, calling, assignment. Who you are, why you're here, what you do. Why? Because you, we, I, us, we are His workmanship, His handicraft, His masterpiece. So let's go lead. Let's go lead and figure out our calling. Let's go lead and figure out how does our assignment tomorrow connect to our calling for the future. God, we're asking that you would right now even give us renewed vision for these three areas. Some of us are navigating identity still. We're not even sure we're following you. Some of us are still trying to unpack the why. Some of us wish we could change our what. But you would give us clarity. You would give us a renewed sense of optimism, of hope, of expectation, that we really do matter because we are your workmanship. So right now, your Spirit would download into our hearts, our souls, our minds, new perspective, new revelation, new wisdom, new insight. Give us a calling statement that makes us come alive. Why? Because we are your workmanship.